Alright, baseball fans, when we talk about the greatest hitters in the history of the game, certain names immediately come to mind: Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Barry Bonds. These are legends whose offensive numbers define eras and set almost unreachable standards. But a recent analysis argues that New York Yankees captain Aaron Judge, over the past year, has put together an offensive stretch so dominant, so statistically remarkable, that it deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as those all-time icons. The article reflects on what it calls the most preposterous year of Aaron Judge, analyzing his performance over his last 162 regular season games, the equivalent of a full MLB season. The turning point for this incredible stretch can be traced back to a seemingly routine home run Judge hit on April 27, 2024, in Milwaukee against Brewers reliever Thiago Vieira. At that point in the 2024 season, Judge was actually having a relatively slow start by his standards, with a .674 OPS. Facing whispers and questions about his performance, that fifth home run of the season felt almost forgettable at the time. A routine fly ball in a blowout win. But, as the article notes, that garden variety tater turned out to be a turning point of historic proportions. Since that day in Milwaukee, spanning 162 regular season games, Aaron Judge has been on an offensive tear that is truly historic. Over that period, the Yankees captain has posted a sensational .369 batting average, a .494 on-base percentage, and a .774 slugging percentage. Combine those numbers, and you get an outrageously supersonic OPS of 1.268 over this 162-game stretch. This is where the historical context becomes staggering. According to the analysis, only 3 other players in the entire history of baseball have posted an OPS that high over a 162-game span. Babe Ruth, who had a 1.432 OPS over a stretch in 1920 and 1921. Ted Williams, who posted a 1.286 OPS across 1941 and 1942. And Barry Bonds, with a 1.392 OPS between 2003 and 2004. The article argues that these are arguably the 3 greatest hitters in baseball history, placing Aaron Judge's recent offensive production in incredibly rare and elite company. Over this span, he has also hit an astonishing 64 home runs. Witnessing this level of sustained excellence, Yankees manager Aaron Boone has run out of superlatives. After Judge hit his 64th homer over this 162-game span recently against Baltimore, Boone reportedly called his performance remarkable, stating they are running out of superlatives or things to say about it, and simply that Judge is playing a different game. This level of dominance, described as generational, has significantly elevated Aaron Judge's status in baseball. The article argues he has transitioned from a legend of his era to an all-time icon. His potential trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, which might have once been considered a long shot, given that he joined MLB's elite later in his career compared to some legends, now looks like a given. Even amidst this historical performance, Judge himself remains grounded in his approach. He is described as ever meticulous and having stayed grounded in his process. Even during his slow start in early 2024, he didn't overcorrect or panic, relying on what the article calls his unshakable, fundamental faith in his ability. When asked about hitting over .400 this season, at the time of the article, his current season average was .427. Judge was quoted saying, "Like I say, you just gotta go up there with confidence. No matter what, I can't focus on results. You have to focus on the process." This focus on the process over the results seems to be a key to his sustained excellence. However, part of why this outlandish year of performance hasn't perhaps received all the praise it deserves is the contrast with his recent postseason struggles. Within this dominant 162-game regular season span, Judge had a postseason to forget during last year's playoff run, going just 9 for 49 with 3 home runs. And notably, in Game 5 of the World Series, presumably the 2024 World Series, a dropped routine flyball by Judge opened the door for a soul-crushing comeback by the Los Angeles Dodgers. For the Yankees, the ultimate goal remains winning a 28th championship. And for Judge, that is the only one box left unchecked in his illustrious career. The article offers a dose of baseball reality, acknowledging that the playoffs can be random. A single player's impact is limited in those short series. And there's a chance, however unfair, that 2024 was his best opportunity to capture that October glory. Nevertheless, the conclusion remains clear. Even if Judge never achieves that ultimate team success in October, the brilliance of his performance over this sustained period, this most preposterous year, will endure anyway. Forever carved into baseball history. The article emphasizes that we are lucky enough to watch now one of the greatest hitters of all time operating at the absolute peak of his powers. In conclusion, Aaron Judge's offensive production over his past 162 regular season games since April 27, 2024, is statistically one of the best stretches in the history of Major League Baseball, placing him in the rare company of legends like Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, and Barry Bonds. Despite a slow start that turned into a historic run, his focus remains on his process. While the ultimate goal of a championship remains uncertain, this preposterous year of dominance has cemented his status as an all-time icon and makes his future Hall of Fame induction seem like a certainty, regardless of whether he ever captures that elusive October glory. Alright, a recent analysis is putting New York Yankees captain Aaron Judge's performance over the past year into truly extraordinary historical context, suggesting he's playing at a level rarely seen in baseball history, potentially placing him in the exclusive class of Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, and Ted Williams. The analysis looks at Aaron Judge's statistics over his past 162 regular season games, a span that began with a seemingly routine home run he hit back on April 27, 2024, in Milwaukee. Over this 1 year, 162-game stretch, Judge has put up remarkable cumulative statistics: a .369 batting average, a .494 on-base percentage, and a .774 slugging percentage, resulting in a staggering 1.268 OPS. He also hit 64 home runs over this period, putting this 1.268 OPS over a 162-game stretch into historical perspective. The article states this is the single best offensive stretch in Major League Baseball since home run king Barry Bonds posted a 1.392 OPS between 2003 and 2004. More profoundly, the article states that Aaron Judge is one of only 4 players in baseball history to post an OPS this high over a continuous 162-game span. The others in this exclusive club are Babe Ruth, with a 1.432 OPS in 1920 and 1921, Barry Bonds, and Ted Williams, with a 1.286 OPS across 1941 and 1942, who are widely considered 3 of the absolute greatest hitters baseball has ever seen. Yankees manager Aaron Boone was quoted after Judge's 64th home run in this span, hit on Wednesday, saying, quote, "It's remarkable. What he's doing, he's playing a different game." The article also touches on the ongoing discussion about whether Judge could hit .400 for the full season, noting that while it's practically improbable in today's game, Boone still won't rule it out, reflecting Judge's ability to, quote, "reconfigure our baseball brains." The article argues that Judge's consistent excellence over this period has elevated him from a legend of his era to an, quote, "all-time icon," with a Hall of Fame induction now seeming like a given. Despite this high praise, Judge remains grounded in his process, emphasizing confidence and focusing on the process over results, even when struggling. As he recently reiterated, the article acknowledges that his past postseason struggles, including the 2024 playoffs and a notable error in the World Series, are part of the picture and temper some of the praise for this dominant run, highlighting that the ultimate unchecked box is a championship. However, the article's thesis concludes that even without ultimate October glory, this, quote, "run of brilliance, this, quote, most preposterous year, is already enduring, carved forever into baseball history, showing a player dominating at the peak of his powers, comparable to the game's all-time greats."